Thank you. I want to start by mentioning colleagues and comrades Mridula, Oshin, Mosam were sitting here, part of the Khirki Community Library. I shifted to Khirki village in Malviya Nagar a few years ago. 22nd January 2024 was a red letter day in the history of our country, a day which witnessed low-key violence and low-key undercoats against Muslim shop owners in various parts of South Delhi, including Khirki. A few weeks down the line, I was woken up at 11 p.m. because of a fight going on somewhere in the streets below. Someone got drunk and there was a fight with a Muslim shop owner, and slurs were being hurled at that shop owner like anything. I was very sad, what's going on in the neighborhood. And soon after that, I saw that there's a session being organized on Palestine, on Kashmir, on internal colonialism, in that same Khirki, in the community library. I was very relieved, and I'm talking here, of course, as a trade union activist, but also as an ordinary citizen of Delhi. What these communities of reading do is that they create communities spatially tied together and tied together by ideas. And that for me is a very important role of the community library. I was hearing in the previous sessions, people were talking about the right to read, meaning the right to justice. I would add to that, saying that the right to read is also a right to space and a right to ideas. It is a battle over space, it is a battle over ideas. When you think of organizing in urban centers like Delhi, which, mind you, are increasingly becoming very prominent in the country, in urban centers I mean, almost 50% of the country today depends on urban centers. They're either living in cities or small towns or big towns, or they're depending on remittances from small towns, big cities to survive and to grow wherever else they're living. So with the importance of urban centers growing, the importance of organizing in urban centers is also growing very rapidly. Therefore, as a trade union, when we're fighting for the rights of the workers in their workplace, and also their overall citizenship rights, we realize that we are essentially fighting a subset of the broader fight for citizenship, which is a right to the city. Right to the city where people live, people love, people work, and people die. If you look at our cities and towns, majority of the people are working people. They are migrant workers, many of them are Dalit, Bahujans, Adivasis, Muslims, people belonging to various backward castes. So you have a whole section of marginalized people who form the majority, the numerical majority in these towns and cities. And they all face a tremendous crunch of space and a tremendous crunch of ideas. Let me explain how, one by one. As far as space is concerned, the kind of colonies that various marginalized people are living in, lacking basic amenities, many of them living in ghettos, many of them living in colonies which are very deeply stratified and differentiated, where people don't come together. And that's a major thing you observe in cities like Delhi. There is really not much which binds together the people of the city socially and culturally. It is deeply segregated living. And segregated living makes organizing extremely difficult. Because people cannot relate to each other as fellow citizens. Then how do we stand with each other in our battles, in our lives, in our loves, in our work, and so on and so forth? Communities of reading centered on community libraries allows people to come together. It provides local institutional bases which are otherwise largely missing in city spaces. In recent times, when you look at the various struggles going on in the city space, every time you are hit with the problem that there is no space. There have been demolitions, say, in Khirki and Saket and Malviya Nagar. After those demolitions, and people whose houses got demolished, they were looking for a place just to keep their stuff for a few days before they could move them away. Now we don't know who to reach out to. I'm not saying the library has to be the space where the stuff is kept, but having community libraries and having those local communities of people, of ideas, of emotions allows you to reach out to the right people to actually provide the kind of relief that is required under these circumstances. Tughlakabad, following the demolitions and people are removed, there was a fact-finding report that was released on the demolitions because the mainstream media spoke all sorts of untruths as they usually do. We struggled to find a space in Tughlakabad where the report could be released. Then you come to other areas, Priyanka Gandhi camp, homes were demolished, and you would see, that once the people got dispersed, they were badly looking for a place where they could congregate, just to preserve that social bonding which they shared in those colonies. In Tughlakabad, in Priyanka Gandhi camp, for weeks after the demolition in the evening, large number of people would gather in the middle of the rubble, sit in the middle of the rubble, chit-chat with each other, because that is the social life which has been taken away. That's the fight towards space. We are talking of organizing workers. In the city, 90% of the economy is informalized. Informal sector essentially means that the workplace, which has historically been the center point of trade union organizing, the workplace is rendered fragile, unstable, it's almost non-existent. Workplace is not the place where you find workers together or where workers are allowed to be together. I'll give you another example from Khirki only. There's a Blinkit store there where our App Karmchari Ekta Union led a strike some time ago. After that, all the workers have been fired, and I have been banned from entering that small space of that Blinkit store. So this is the Khirki main road, and a small part of this is occupied by the Blinkit store. Whenever I go to put a poster or to give a pamphlet, the guard tells me, "आप रास्ते के उस तरफ खड़े होके बांटिए, आप इस तरफ नहीं आ सकते." That is the everyday fight that is going on over space in urban centers like these. Now, you look at other categories of workers, domestic workers. The work itself is isolating. The workers are not congregated at one place. Nirman Mazdoor you find at labor chowk, but at labor chowk they are going there to look for work. That is not the place where they are working. जहाँ पे वो लोग काम करने जाएंगे, वहाँ पे कुछ और लोगों के साथ वो काम करेंगे, not with the same people they are waiting with at the labor chowk. तो इस तरह के हालात में कहाँ मजदूरों के साथ या मजदूर एक दूसरे के साथ कहाँ बातचीत करेंगे? बातचीत करने का जगह एक होता है कॉलोनी, और सिर्फ कॉलोनी ही है जहाँ पे रेगुलर बेसिस पे एक स्टेबल सेट ऑफ पीपल कैन कम टुगेदर टू सोशलाइज, टू टॉक, टू ऑर्गेनाइज. So, spatial organizing is absolutely essential to any kind of secular democratic organizing in the city space. जिसके लिए community-based initiatives, libraries are essential. Now, when I say it's also fight over ideas, historically, when we talk of ideas in the city, universities have occupied the center stage. And अभी के समय में universities पे एक हमला भी चल रहा है. But universities, no matter how inclusive some of them are, I am from JNU, so I know how inclusive JNU has been, or efforts have been made to make it inclusive. So there is no taking away from the credit of these institutions. But having said that, universities historically, they are exclusive spaces by definition. Not everybody can reach there. तो बाकी लोगों के बीच हम आइडियाज कैसे ले जाएंगे, उनके बीच हम आइडियोलॉजिकल वर्क हम कैसे करेंगे? Again, their community libraries play a very, very important role. एक उदाहरण मैं देना चाहता हूँ जो अभी देश में माहौल बना हुआ है, एक हिंदुत्ववादी राजनीति का कहर पूरा देश में दिख रहा है. See, historically, organizations like these have often functioned bottom up. Universities पे आज जो हमला हो रहा है, ये हमला धीरे धीरे बढ़ा through various kinds of community networks which were built. A good example is Akhil Bharatiya Itihas Sankalan Yojana, which is an organization of community historians run by the RSS. उन लोगों ने क्या किया, गांव-गांव जाके बोला कि देखो तुम लोग अच्छे historians हो, big institutions don't take you seriously, we'll publish your work. You just mention that your village, the history of your village starts from the day Ram or Lakshman crossed your village on their way to some place or the other. And this wide network created the audience for the reception of a whole range of things which are not true, things which are false histories. But इसका audience इस तरह से बना है. When I was in JNU, I was there for a long time. I belong to that category जिसको कहा जाता है one of those, घुस के निकलते नहीं हैं. तो मैं 9 साल रहा, MA, MPhil, PhD, everything over there. And I saw in 2016 when the students were arrested and the kind of atmosphere that was created against the university. For me, the biggest takeaway, something that has structured my activism ever since, was the situation where we are getting solidarity from the entire world. People from Colombia, Chicago, they are flying in to speak at the Freedom Square. But communities around the city, in Punika, in Khirki, in Vasant we are there saying shut down JNU. तो कहीं ना कहीं जो आइडियोलॉजिकल काम हमको समाज के बीच करने की जरूरत है, maybe that's something where we have lacked, and that is something which needs to be done as soon as possible. And in that, community organizing, community centers will play a very, very important role. उसके बिना हो ही नहीं सकता. And also to emphasize on the significance of this kind of urban organizing, it's not just the workers. You look at women, you look at queer people, Muslims, they're all marginalized in various ways. They feel marginalized. They are made to feel like second-class citizens. And the issues that we are taking up, the issues that are coming up, pollution, inequality, social segregation, communal polarization. See, these are urban in terms of their location. But essentially, we are talking of wider patterns of society, of structure, of politics. So, a strong secular democratic organizing rooted in cities, I believe they can play a big role in building or rebuilding, how they want to put it, a secular democratic India. And for that, without a strong institutional base through which we do this organizing, through which we spread these ideas, through which we claim space for ourselves, for each other, for other fellow citizens who are denied that space. I think without that, this kind of a project will not be possible. And therefore, I appeal to everyone sitting here who are library activists to also build more solidarity with people organizing in the cities and in various kinds of urban centers, small towns, jo bhi ho. And as a trade union activist also, I increasingly feel invested in the library movement. We are now having the national conference of our trade union in the next 3 days, and I hope that library movement activists will put up a stall over there for the Right to Read campaign that has been launched, and we want to take the Right to Read campaign to all other trade unions, central trade unions, but also trade unions outside the central trade union framework, which are in the informal sector, autonomous trade unions. ये सारे यूनियन तक हम लाइब्रेरी की बात पहुंचाना चाहते हैं, और हम चाहते हैं कि आने वाले समय में हम एकजुटता के साथ अपने कामकाज को आगे बढ़ाएं. लाइब्रेरीज के थ्रू हमारी जो स्पेस की लड़ाई है, जस्टिस की लड़ाई है, आइडियाज की लड़ाई है, इसको हम आगे बढ़ाएं. जय भीम, लाल सलाम, भूल जोहर.